There's no need to drive around South Florida wasting valuable time looking for a new or certified pre-owned Acura. Go to the #1 volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. Purchase with pace and space in a dealership tailored to your needs. From home buying to providing that personal touch. Contact the 2020 Satisfaction Award winner Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. 888-776-5123. That's 888-776-5123. Or visit them at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines. If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your Inter Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or intermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where Inter Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
The viewpoint, statements, or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyXS.com, Media Group Inc., ownership, management, sponsors, or website.
A storm is now making shore.
The Miami Hurricanes Watch with host Mike McCoy is on. The Watch is mastered by Sean Stanley and Chad Shobe. Time for hardcore Miami Hurricanes talk. Here's your host, Mike McCoy.
Good evening, everyone. How you doing? You are listening to Miami Hurricanes Watch with Mike McCoy on the 305 Sports Talk Network, powered by Big O. That was pretty cool. I got like an intro. I didn't have that last week. Awesome job by Chad and Stan for that. Pretty cool. I like it. Thank you. So, got a lot of stuff to cover. Got Lance Leggett coming on the show at about 8:20. Want to get his take on what happened last week with Miami and what's forthcoming this week with Miami. If you've been living under a rock, there's kind of a big game going on. Miami's headed over to College Station to face the Texas A&M Aggies, who are under fire, okay? Big time. And if you don't know why, you should. They lost to I'm not going to say technically Appalachian State is a lower level team. Let's get that straight, right? But they probably shouldn't be. That team should probably be somewhere in the ACC, you know, with the way they've been. I mean, look, they played Miami to a 1-point game last year, right? Go over to College Station and beat them. And I want to talk about that. We're going to talk about how they looked last week today in this segment. We're going to talk about how Miami looked last week in this segment, Lance Leggett in the following segment, and then we'll just kind of recap everything. And I want to talk about what Miami needs to do to win that game. And I want to go over the 3 McCoys. All right. That's something that we came up with over the past week, kind of like the MVPs for the last game for Miami. So let's get started. Got a lot of stuff and only an hour to get it done. So let me go ahead and pull up my notes here. First thing I want to talk about, man, is let's talk about Texas A&M, who was ranked 6th last week, all right, going into their game with Appalachian State at home. But before that, I want to talk about what they looked like against Sam Houston State. I had to Google where Sam Houston State was. I wasn't even aware where they were located anywhere. Anytime that there's a team that doesn't have like some kind of, geography in their name, I got, where the hell are they from? But anyway, so Sam Houston State, week 1, right? We're going to go back to that just really quick to recap because it is 2 weeks old. But I think it's important when discussing what Miami fans should expect for Saturday. So they beat Sam Houston State by an underwhelming 31-0. I say underwhelming, even though they did shut them out because they probably should have won. They probably should have put up 50. I mean, if you think about it, that was TAMU's version of Bethune-Cookman, versus Miami. And we all saw what Miami did to Bethune at home. In that game, Haynes King, the quarterback that is being, reamed right now by the media, social media, Texas A&M Aggie fans, he went 20 of 31 for 364 yards in that game, threw 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. All right. But this is what I wanted to talk about in terms of his performance versus Sam Houston State. His touchdown passes came on 66, 63, and 43-yard plays where the ball traveled in the air for a good 30 to 40 yards before being caught. Why do I think that's important? Miami's secondary has not been looking as good as fans have hoped, right? Everyone knew going into the season that was probably not going to be a strength of the defense, but how many parts come in a secondary? Two parts, right? You got the corners and then you got the safeties. Now, the safeties normally manned by Cam Kitchens, Agent JW0, James Williams, the 6'5", 220 plus safety. And I really hope I'm one of those guys that hope he stays at safety throughout the entirety of his career. I love him there. I think he moves well. I don't think he gets the amount of credit that he should for being the type of cover man that he is. Can he use some work? Sure. But I hope he stays. I don't want to see him close to the line of scrimmage full time. And the safety position also manned by Al Blades a lot. All right, so pretty much those are the three guys, and Avante Williams. We got to talk about him. We're going to get into him in a little bit. But those are the three guys, well, those are four guys that, will be manning, hopefully, that safety position. And that's pretty much been the strength, or going into the season, what's expected to be the strength of the secondary, right? Okay, so that's why that's an interesting matchup to watch, because in one of those throws, by the way, that King threw was a laser up the middle. And he put it with some velocity. All right. In that game versus Sam Houston State, the leading rusher was Devon. Now, listen, I'm sorry, I don't have a pronunciation guide in front of me. His last name is spelled Achane. I want to say Acne, but that's probably wrong. Cheney, I don't know. Either way, he had 18 carries, 42 yards, and a touch. But it was 2.3 on average. We're going to talk about their offensive line woes and run blocking and pass blocking in a minute. Their leading receiver was Anais Smith, went a whopping 6 for 164 and 2 touches. The long of 63 and then a 43-yard pass. It was that 63-yarder that was a dart over the middle of the field, in which Miami's defense has been kind of looking like Swiss cheese a little bit, at least, in that last game versus Southern Miss. So that and just really quick some stats in that Sam Houston game. ATM, we like to call him ATM, right? Had 23 first downs. They were 7 of 13 on third downs. They totaled 497 yards. 387 came in the air, 110 on the ground. Their defense is elite. On paper, they're great. They allowed less than 200 yards in that game. Not to get too much into that. TAMU did have 2 turnovers. Texas A&M, they held the ball for 32 minutes. Let's move on to last week versus App State. So Haynes King struggled. No doubt about that, right? And that's probably an understatement, all right? Let's just put that out there. 13 of 20, 97 yards. Their leading rusher was Devon. Help me with the last name. Acne. I'm not sure. I'm not trying to make fun of his last name. I'm just saying I don't know how to pronounce it. 10 carries, 66 yards, a touch with an average of 6.6, right? Their leading receiver was Evan Stewart. 5 receptions for 48 yards. Okay, cool. Let's get into the team comparison on stats here, and then we're going to, kind of dive into that more in the last segment, because I do want to talk about Miami versus Southern Miss after this. Texas A&M had 9 first downs versus versus Appalachian State's 22 last week. All right, Appalachian State converted on 9 of 20. Texas A&M converted on 2 of 8 third downs. Okay, they didn't attempt a fourth down. Appalachian State, however, did 5 times, and they converted 3 of their fourth downs. They outgained Texas A&M's offense 315 to 186. This is an offense that's headed by the offensive guru, quarterback whisperer, the ultimate quarterback whisperer in Jimbo Fisher. Remember what Jimbo Fisher did when he was at FSU? I'll remind you, he coached 2 guys to be first-round picks, and then when they were drafted in the first one, I said, holy, you know what? Like, these guys are not first-round talents. They are beneficiaries of a guy that knows what the hell he's talking about. But now Jimbo Fisher's under fire, because the talk around Aggie Land is he really that great of an offensive mind, or did he benefit from, generational talent at FSU and Jameis Winston and Cook? We'll see. I think it's a little bit of both, but whatever. Let me get back to these stats versus App State. passing. App State only passed for 134, but that was still more than Texas A&M's 97 yards passing. 97 yards passing. That's just insane. 13 of 20 again, like I said, by Haynes King. App State ran for 181 yards on the ground versus Texas A&M's 89. Penalties: 7 of 60 for Texas A&M and App State for 5 for 55 yards. This was the stat of the game, and this is how, when, where, whatever, why, pick one, how Miami's going to win this game. Time of possession, stat of the game, 41 minutes and 29 seconds for App State. Their best defense was their offense, keeping Texas A&M off the field. Texas A&M held the ball for 18 minutes and 17 seconds, all right? App State's defense also totaled 6 tackles for loss. 2 of those were sacks. Miami's got to get to this quarterback. Who it will be, we don't know yet. And I'll get into that in the final segment. We don't know if Haynes King is going to start. Jimbo Fisher has not named the starter. However, he didn't say that Haynes King was in trouble of starting. They're just looking at all the quarterbacks. We'll get into that later. But I wanted to make one last point about this game before we jump into that Miami game and before Lance Leggett joins us in the next segment. By the way, you're listening to Mike McCoy on the Miami Hurricanes Watch on the Sports Talk Network powered by Big O. So Appalachian State's defense, they run a 3-4 that looks like a 4-3. And this is all because edge rusher Nick Hampton, remember that name, guys. Nick Hampton is usually aligned on the line of scrimmage, all right? They're not a big team up front. They have a 295-pound nose tackle, all right? Nose tackles are normally upwards of 300 pounds, maybe 320, 330, big guys, okay? They have a 265-pound defensive tackle and a pair of 235 to 240-pound guys on the outside. They're undersized, and they took on this SEC monster in terms of talent and size. That whole, SEC size thing. You wear the SEC, blah blah blah. You lost to those guys, okay? So I mean, take that for what it's worth. So moving on to Miami versus Southern Miss before we close out the segment in a few minutes. Got a little bit to say about this game. A lot has been talked about. For crying out loud, it's Tuesday. It's not like I'm going to be breaking any news here, but I want to talk about this game still. So Miami 24 yards versus Southern Miss's 12 yards on Saturday, right? I'm sorry, total first downs, 24-12. Miami doubled up on in that account. Miami did look good on third downs, converting on 9 of 17. Miami did not convert on their only fourth down attempt. 452 in terms of total yards for the Canes. 276 came in the air, 174 on the ground. The big story that came out of that game was what? Tale of two halves, right? At least that's what it was for me. Tale of two halves in which Miami looked like a completely different team coming out of the locker room in the second half. Adjustments. That's something that Canes fans haven't really been able to say in the past few years, right? A coaching staff that makes adjustments. And what did Miami lean on? All right, when they had when they faced adversity, they leaned on the run game. And is it hard to believe that's what they did when you have an O-line coach as your head coach and one of the best O-line coaches or the best O-line coach in the nation, and Alex Mirabal? No, that's not a surprise. So book it. Even though it's early in the season, I'm going to go ahead and say book it. When Miami's facing adversity, they're going to lean on their run to try and, right the ship. I think that's very safe to say. It was easier to say last week with Tyler Van Dyke. I don't want to say he struggled, but he didn't play his best game. He even said so himself. Miami's not going to win going into Texas A&M if he plays the way he did. This is a guy that was talked about in the preseason, maybe representing the Canes in New York City for, the Heisman Trophy. We'll see. But Miami did turn it around. All right. They were able to score some points in that third quarter. And, hopefully that translates. But another big thing about that game was, you're wondering the protection issues and how Miami's, I don't want to use the word struggled, but they didn't look like their best in terms of App State's pressure. That's a team that blitzed more than 50% of the time. more than 50% of the time. They have a 29-year-old defensive coordinator. That guy's not scared. Apparently, he's not scared of going up against Josh Gaddis, who's the reigning, assistant coach of the year. Forgot the name of that award. Oh my God! Somebody help me out in the chat. But in any event, Miami's gonna have to up their game. Period. All across the board. Run blocking wise, pass blocking wise. Zion Nelson, we'll see what his status is before the game. As you all know, Mario Cristobal did not release a depth chart heading into last week's game, so it was kind of a mystery, and it was kind of revealed, kind of right before the kickoff, which I'm fine with. Not a problem with that. We'll see how much playing time Rooster gets, but Miami's going to have to control that ball. Miami's going to have to keep the defense off the field as much as possible, because I'll tell you what, if you guys paid attention to that press conference that Coach Cristobal had yesterday, they have respect for that Texas A&M offense. They call them a dangerous offense. This is the offense that has big speed, and he meant that in a literal sense. They have big speed. Their tight ends can move, all right? Their tight ends can move, which makes me wonder. I am not a coach in the locker room. I know where to get insider information from where I wanted to, but this is not me getting insider information. This is me being – I like to call myself a football mind, all right? I pay attention to the game. I read the tea leaves. I see what's going on. And so this is what I think we're going to see on Saturday when Miami travels to Texas A&M for that 9 Eastern kickoff. I think that with that big speed Miami's talking about, okay, and you don't necessarily hear this so much from coaches defensively as you do offensively, but I think they were holding a little bit of that defensive playbook back. Why do I say that, Mike? Well, it's simple to me. If they have big speed on offense that Miami has to pay attention to, and Miami's linebackers aren't the best in pass coverage, at least number 11, Corey Flagg, Miami has big speed on defense too. Agent JW0, maybe he could be playing a little bit closer to the line. Maybe we're going to see a lot more of Avante Williams, who everything is okay with, by the way. Everybody knows that he deleted his Miami stuff from his Instagram page. He was pissed off for only seeing so many snaps on Saturday, mainly saw it only on special teams. But in any event, I think this is the game where James Williams plays a lot closer to the line and sees coverage versus tight ends and running backs a lot more than he is lined up in that defensive backfield. That's just me. I could be wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times. All right. We'll see. We'll talk about it next week on this show when we re-air on Tuesday. I think that's going to happen a lot. They're going to counter that big speed with James Williams, and we're going to see that rotation of the safety position between ABJ, Avante Williams, and the very steady Cam Kitchens. What will the corners do? I don't know. Everybody knows how the play of DJ Ivey has been very inconsistent. Corey Couch is probably Miami's best coverage corner, but he's also missed a lot of tackles throughout his career here. So we'll see. That defensive line has got to get pressure. Again, last week against Texas A&M, Appalachian State totaled 6 tackles for loss, and 2 of those were sacks. So, that's 2 things that Miami has to do defensively, regardless of who the quarterback is. I'm sorry. Period. 2 things they have to do, period, regardless of who the quarterback is. They got to apply pressure. You don't necessarily have to get home, because sometimes quarterback pressure is better than a sack. All right. They got to apply pressure defensively. They got to get off the field on 3rd downs, and offensively, they got to hold that ball. All right. I think those are the 3 keys to winning that game. 2 of them become on defense, 1 of them on offense. And I'm going to throw another one in there. Special teams has to be on point. Andy Borregales has to be on his game. Punt coverage, Lou Headley has to shine, probably have his best game of his career. And so we'll see what happens. But for now, we're going to step aside really quick. We got Lance Leggett coming on in the very next segment. You guys don't remember him? Shame on you. One of the most athletic receivers I've seen in a Miami uniform. He was number 9 way back in the day. But we'll be back. You're listening to the Miami Hurricanes Watch on the Sports Talk Network. And I'm your host, Mike McCoy. Stick around.
When you move, you need a reliable company led by passionate folks, eager to assist its customers during a transitional process that needs to be smooth. Call Essential Moving Experts at 844-368-5750 for all your local and long-distance moving needs. you can rely on essential moving experts. Mention the Big O Show and get $150 off. Family owned and operated, they offer free 30-day storage, full service moving, fully licensed, bonded, and insured. Moving was never so easy. EssentialMovingExperts.com.
Welcome to Red Light Therapy, a revolutionary technology perfected by NASA to aid in muscle strengthening and recovery. Red and infrared light has the capacity to penetrate deep into the cell's mitochondria, potentially leading to increased energy, faster recovery, and the optimal performance your body demands. Train, fight, recover.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your inner Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or innermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where inner Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
The storm is now making shore.
The Miami Hurricanes Watch with host Mike McCoy is on. The Watch is mastered by Sean Stanley and Chad Shobe. Time for hardcore Miami Hurricanes talk. Here's your host, Mike McCoy.
Can't get over that intro. That's so cool. But thanks, everybody, for sticking around with us throughout that last break. You're listening to the Miami Hurricanes Watch with your host, Mike McCoy. And we're going to wait for a little bit before Lance to get in. And he should be coming on in a second. But, Lance Leggett is going to join us. We're going to talk about the Texas A&M game coming up. I want to get his thoughts on how Miami has been looking so far this offseason. He'll join us, and I'm sorry, not this offseason, this season, and kind of get to ask him a few questions. Maybe if the chat wants to go ahead and ask a few questions, I'll go ahead and read that up. I will go ahead and address some of the chats that I see now as we wait for Lance. So I was scrolling through the break, and I see that Luke the Drift, thanks for listening, man. Luke the Drift 1 was talking about how Mallory needs to get targeted more. And I agree. I bring this up, and anybody that listens to me on any podcast that I appear as a guest on, whenever we talk about tight ends, I'm going to wear this out. I share this on my Twitter all the time, right there. UM_radio Mike. Mallory, I think, is a huge, big-time weapon because of the simple fact that the dude is an athletic freak. How can you say that, Mike? He hasn't really shown it on the field. You don't just lose your athleticism from being an 18-year-old to however old he is right now. Why do I say that? In his senior year in high school, the man finished third in the state meet in the 110-meter hurdles. Lance Leggett, who's going to join us in a second, knows a little bit about track and field, and he could attest to how hard that event is, all right? Lance Leggett finished third in the state meet as a senior in high school in the 110-meter hurdles. I'm sorry, Will Mallory. And Will Mallory went to school in Jacksonville, meaning you're going up against speed all across the state of Florida. So, yes, I agree they need to get the ball more. He needs to get the ball more. That position as a whole needs to get the ball more. And I believe they will because Gaddis loves his tight ends. Let me go ahead and see when Lance is going to join us. And like I said, in the meanwhile, I will address any questions in the chat. Let me see here. What else? Texas A&M should have kept Costanza, or however you spell his name. Yeah. Keyshawn and Mallory need to get open. So the thing with the receivers that, everybody's been hearing about since last week's game is that Miami's receivers are lacking separation. And I think Lance is with us right now. Lance, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
Oh man, I'm sorry. You've been waiting in the back the whole
Yeah,
time.
hey, I'm just listening to
man.
Hey,
Lance,
bro,
how
I
you
was
doing?
just
What's
listening
going
to
on?
you. Hey, I was listening to you vibe and eat me some boiled peanuts, man. You already know what I was
Listen,
doing.
before we get started, I want to hear more about it. I know you definitely want to talk about it. Please tell us about those Taste One's boiled peanuts, please.
Man, you already know, man. Taste one boiled peanuts. This is my new business venture I have right now. We've been out since November, and I can honestly say the University of Miami fan base been like really supporting. Like when I say taking it to another level, taking it to another level. Not only that the University of Miami fan base know about it, but it's getting other fan bases to know about it. And man, it's just been opening up a lot of doors for me. And man, I'm gonna continue to push, like correcting everything as I go. You know, you got kinks you got to work out, but
Yeah.
I've been doing it as I've been going. But man, it's been a good, successful run right now.
We're happy to hear that, man. I say this a lot about a lot of football players that come through this program because there's a lot of stupid people out there that think that Miami football players are just that. That's clearly not the case. Like, you guys cannot be put in a box like that. You got Chad Thomas doing music, Tracy Howard's doing music. You have your own business venture. So shouts to that. I was on your website a little bit earlier, and there's a map on there that shows where you can find what locations these peanuts can be found at throughout the city of Miami. There's a couple locations in Opelika, some on 79th Street off of I-95. So not too far from the stadium. Get you a bag and take them to the game. So hopefully they'll start selling. Hopefully they'll start selling bags. Who knows, right?
Well, we need them in there, man. We're gonna see what man Hard Rock kind of, honestly, if we had our stadium, the University of Miami had our stadium, no doubt in my mind they'll be inside the stadium. But Hard Rock, that's not our stadium. So the only reason y'all don't see me there because Hard Rock don't allow it. So that's the only reason, man. We had our own stadium, Taste want to be in there, but we don't have it in there. But you see it at the bottom right here, tasteoneboiledpeanuts.com with an S. If y'all want to place an order, man, I think y'all will be very satisfied, happy about it.
All right. Well, that's that, man. Let's get into some football. And again, I'm very happy for your business venture, man. Congratulations to you on that. I wanted to ask you, man, just overall thoughts. Miami 2-0, new coaching regime, new attitude in the locker room. What do you see so far as a former player? What do you like from the receiver position? What's your overall take so far after 2 games?
Man, my tell of the take would be this week. Like a lot of people, I don't look too much into the first 2 games. We did what we should have done. I was looking at Cristobal just to see if he still had that same fire when I was there in 2004. And guess what? Coach Cristobal still got that same fire. You saw it when he got on the boards on the sideline. But that's that tough love. A lot of people don't know Coach Cristobal got that tough love. I know a lot of those guys probably run through the wall for him. But I just love what I saw. I was just looking at Cristobal. That's the only person I was really looking at was Cristobal and just seeing how he interact. And I could see like when he come back to the sideline, he talking to the offense, he getting on them. But I can't really tell you too much on them first 2 games. Now this game right here, and I know Cristobal for the list. He gonna love this. He gonna make the boys 2-0. Be losing 2 games in a row. Texas A&M. He better try to listen. He better try to punish them. I guarantee you, Cristobal love that Texas A&M not undefeated right now.
I can see Miami. You know how they say leadership starts at the top and it flows down, from the top, and it resonates from the top, and a team takes on their personality of their coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
With that being the case, Cristobal lived it, breathed it, played it, experienced it. He was on some of those teams that went into big time hostile environments and venues and kicked ass and took names, and that was it. So he's used to this stuff as a player. He's used to it as a coach. Last year, Oregon going into the the horseshoe without Kayvon Thibodeau, their best player, pulled out a win. All right, so he's used to this as a coach and as a player. You gotta wonder if Miami kind of takes part of that into the game. But the other thing I wanted to ask you about is if, say, Miami doesn't pull it off, and are there any moral victories? I think I know what you're going to say here, but are there any moral victories if Miami comes away looking good in a loss at Texas A&M on Saturday?
No, I want to get these wins. I want to get these W's. Hey, I want no L. We've been taking too many L's these past couple years.
I hear that, man.
But you could tell if that did happen. I answer your question if it did happen. I know for a fact Cristobal gonna get them boys to bounce right back. He's gonna bounce right back the next day. He's gonna talk about it, forget about it, have amnesia, and then move on to the next week. Because you already know if you dwell on that 1 week, it's gonna make a break. Now Texas A&M is gonna make a break them. They lose 2 in a row. Oh my God, that's gonna hurt them. I kind of like it because it's like it's putting more pressure on us. Let's make them have 2 losses in a row. You see what I'm saying? Instead of 1. I'd rather give them that second loss. I'm happy we're not undefeated. I'm happy they're not undefeated. We undefeated, but I definitely want to see them give them that second loss.
Okay. See, I was looking at it the other way. I wanted to give them their first loss. I wanted to give them their only loss to the season because then that would look good on Miami. Now, say Texas A&M runs the table after this or whatever, but I see what you're saying. I see your point in terms of what Cristobal or how he'll have his team ready to play when Miami comes back home against, I think it's Middle Tennessee State in 2 weeks, because during that FSU streak where Miami lost 7 in a row, I think there was a point where Miami lost like 2 or 3 games after an FSU game for 4 years in a row there. And that was just FSU had beat us twice. That can't happen. That can't happen. And the other thing that I don't like about this game is this. This is what the national perception is going to be in some of these dumb Hurricanes fans out there, because they do exist. I'm sure you know that as a former player. App State beat them. So Miami's got to beat them. Miami's got to beat them because App State beat them. App State's not a bad team, number one. And then the other one is, if Miami does win, of course Miami should have beat them because App State won. Miami's kind of in a lose-lose proposition when it comes to that. So I don't like that at all. What I do want to see is Miami go in there and play like the 12th ranked team, win or lose. And that's going to be I can't believe College Game Day is not there, which is unbelievable. They're going to Boone.
You like the only ranked game that week, like 2 ranked teams, right?
It's at 9 o'clock, man. It's at 9 o'clock. How you not gonna? Do you know where they're going, right? You know where they're going, right? You know where game day is going? They're going to Appalachian State.
Yeah, but that's
like, come on, man. I don't understand that. But
it's disrespect. But I guess they always see Appalachian State upset a big one of these Power 5 schools. So I guess they want to get them boys some shine.
Right. I
guess just look at it like this. Hopefully, Florida State undefeated. We undefeated. Then you know what they're coming at.
Oh man, listen. I'm one of those people that hopes FSU loses every game until God comes back, until Jesus comes back. And I don't mind them being winless for the rest of the time. But yes, that's homecoming. It'll be a great game in November. I get it. And by the way, you're listening to the Miami Hurricanes Watch by your host, Mike McCoy, joined by Lance Leggett, former Miami Hurricanes wide receiver from Bartow, Florida, played his high school football over at Arlington Grace Prep over in Texas. War number 9, one of my favorite, most athletic receivers, long legs with speed. I think that there was a game that I'll never forget. I think you guys were at Wake Forest. You guys caught a pass from Kyle Wright. That's just an image that sticks in my head. I'm like, damn, I knew you were fast, but that's the first time I think I really got to see you stretch your legs, and I'll never forget that.
Had them jets, man. You already know, had them burners, boy.
Let me ask you a question. In terms of receivers right now on the Miami roster, all right, I'm going to go ahead and rattle them off to you because I'm not sure if you know all of them by heart. But in terms of receivers,
that's that group right there I can kind of name. Go out.
Who in your minds should be a target in this game? Who is your favorite receiver? I mean, Frank Latson kind of mirrors you the most out of everyone in terms of his physical frame. 6'3", 205 from South Dade, went to Clemson, transferred here. My favorite on the roster is Romello Brinson. He reminds me of Lamar Thomas just because of his build. And to me, he's one of Miami's most talented receivers. I've always loved, and I'm glad he's getting a chance right now, number 83, Michael Redding, because he's probably the most physically talented receiver in the group. He
put together now, Redding, his body put together now. He definitely put together. Man, honestly, I just be wanting to see them boys win as a whole. You know, you're supposed to have that one in a group that stand out and probably have the most yards, but I feel like this receiving core, everybody got to be as one. I don't feel like we're going to have that one receiver just stick out. I think all of them got to make plays with Van Dyke spreading the ball around. I don't feel like you might go to one receiver 10 times. I don't think we have that receiver right now that you go to him 10 times a game. You see what I'm saying? And when I mean going 10 times, go to him 10 times a game, but can he change the game when you go to him 10? Don't just catch the ball. Can you make some plays, like explosive plays? So me personally, I feel like as a group, we can do that, but I don't feel like we had that one that could just take over that game. So that's how I look at it.
That's a fair assessment because of the simple fact that, we haven't seen it as fans. We have yet to see it. They might have the potential to do it. They may be capable of doing it, but you got to do it. And look, Saturday is the best time to do it. You're literally going to have all the lights on you. It's going to be national television, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on ESPN, Kyle Field, 12th man. I mean, you name it. That's what you come to Miami for, right? SEC opponent. In terms of what you think Miami has to do, the way Appalachian State won that game was ball control offense. They ran for close to 200 yards. They didn't throw for, a good amount, but they controlled the ball, held the ball for, I want to say it was close to 40 minutes. I'm going to look through my notes in a second. But Miami's run game, hopefully Zion Nelson is back and healthy. You're going to have, Thad Franklin back there. Paris has been running crazy. I get it. It's 2 preseason games from Miami. But in terms of ball control offense and, that being your best form of defense when it comes to facing a team like Florida A&M, Texas A&M, how do you see that going along for Miami?
To me, I know a lot of people have been saying the running backs, like, they look good. In my eyes, I promise you, when I was looking at the past 2 games, I'm like, man, they missing something. It's like, I'll be honest with them, like, they missing something. And then next thing I was telling my cousin that, I'm like, man, I don't know, bro. It's like, they running it, but it's like, they missing something. And next thing you know, Cristobal came out in the interview. He said the running backs wasn't running hard. I saw that with my eyes, but a lot of people like, oh, Parrish had over 100 yards both games. And I like that, but it was like them boys missing something. And I'm happy to address that because everybody else is saying we running good. And I was looking at the film like, nah, they got to pick it up. And Cristobal came out and said that. That was so crazy. He's like, man, the running backs got to pick it up. They're not running hard. And that's how I feel. This game right here, man, Van Dyke, put it on him. We say he a top 10 pick. If Van Dyke a top 10 pick, this the game you got to show up in. But I tell people this. I'm sorry to keep going on, but I tell people this: when have we ever struggled against Texas A&M?
In my lifetime, Miami is 2-0 against A&M.
Yeah.
Ja'Cory went over there and beat them boys. And then at home, I don't know if you were on that team, but it was a Thursday night game at the OB.
Thursday night, I bought them too. I bought them for a deep ball.
I remember that game on a Thursday night that had that big old running back, Javorsky Lane, that everybody was talking about. Big old number, I think he wore number 37. And they shut that running attack down. Who was the quarterback for that? Was it Kirby or was it Kyle? Because I honestly can't remember.
I can't, boy, don't make me lie. I think it was Kirby.
Okay.
I know I caught deep ball, but I just can't remember who it was.
Okay, fair enough. I'm glad we got 2 minutes before I let you go. And by the way, really, I want to appreciate you for your time, man.
Good, bro. We vibing, man. You one of the ones I like. You got a good vibe, so good.
I appreciate you, man. I want to talk about something completely off topic. All right. I want to talk about Kyle Wright because he is one of my favorite quarterbacks to ever come to Miami. I think he takes a lot of unwarranted heat by fans. Everybody knows the amount of coordinators he went through. And let's face it, the man was running for his life almost every. And I'm not trying to talk crap about your fellow teammates on that O-line, but he was running for his life a lot of times. The man had an NFL arm. I think he had, in my eyes, he had NFL talent, was, Gatorade Player of the Year coming out of high school. And just tell me overall as a receiver, what it was catching balls like from Kyle Wright, because to me, I mean, he was a total package.
Yeah, Kyle had it all, like the size, the build, the athleticism. He had the arm. I feel like a lot of people, even with myself, and I'm not using that as an excuse. Oh, well, that shit, man. Like I tell people, man, that shit was 20 years ago. You still dwelling on that shit. I don't give a damn. But it was so long ago. We had so many offensive coordinators. A lot of people don't understand. Like every year, every spring, we going in and trying to learn a new offense. Every spring, rather than having an offense where we know and then we just add on to it. No, we coming in. We had to learn a new offense every year. We had 3 offensive coordinators. 3. That out of the 4 years I was there. So that goes to show, like, that's going to slow down the chemistry. You see what I'm saying? You can have chemistry with a player, but now you got to, we guessing, okay, you got to run this route. When you usually run another route doing this concept, now you got to run this route doing this concept. So That's why I understood tell the fans like what Kyle, man, he just the situation when we went there, just the situation, different offensive coordinator. That's the only thing I can really say.
All right. Well, I appreciate that because I go to bat for him. I've never met him anything like that, but I go to bat for him because I think he just took a lot of warranty. But Lance,
but hold on, but what you saying? And I tell a lot of them boys, man. And what I hate, man, F that. I don't care about them fans not liking you. Come back. You see what I'm saying? They might say bad shit about me. I don't give a damn. I'm coming back. Show your face, man. That shit old. And you still stuck on that old fucking well. But my thing is, man, come back. And the fans make them boys not want to come back. You see what I'm saying? And that's the sad part about it. A lot of fans don't understand. They say all that dumbass shit, but y'all run these boys away. Well, we could still probably get some recruits. And y'all run away because they want to come back. And I'm being that one. I probably ain't had a career I want to have, but I'm still showing my face. I ain't hiding my face. Get these peanuts.
Listen, man. Once a cane, always a cane. You got a free ticket to come on campus whenever you want to. Come on the sidelines whenever you want to. Go to Green Tree wherever you want to. Come on this show whenever you want to. I appreciate you, man. I don't mean to cut you short. I don't mean to cut you short, but we got to go. I will text you after the show. Okay. All right. But thanks for your time, man. I appreciate you. And go Canes. We'll catch up later. All right.
Almost deaf. All right, man.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we will be back with the Miami Hurricanes Watch on the Big O Network. See you around after the break.
When you move, you need a reliable company led by passionate folks, eager to assist its customers during a transitional process that needs to be smooth. Call Essential Moving Experts at 844-368-5750 for all your local and long-distance moving needs. You can rely on Essential Moving Experts. Mention the Big O Show and get $150 off. Family owned and operated, they offer free 30-day storage, full-service moving, fully licensed, bonded, and insured. Moving was never so easy. EssentialMovingExperts.com.
The Sloman Shield Home Security System guards your home with next-gen perimeter protection, 24/7 monitoring, and interior motion sensing. And right now, get a free Sloman Shield security system and doorbell camera, all professionally installed, for free.
Shield your world, the Sloman Shield.
Hey guys, this is Hayden Hurst, NFL tight end. I'm partnering today with Red Recover. We're going to run you guys through some drills. I started using Red Recover last year, my 4th year in the NFL. It just helps me on Mondays after games, get my recovery process started, get back into the fold of the week, and get ready for the following Sunday. If you want to recover like me, use Red Recover.
The storm is now making shore.
The Miami Hurricanes Watch with host Mike McCoy is on. The Watch is mastered by Sean Stanley and Chad Shobe. Time for hardcore Miami Hurricanes talk. Here's your host, Mike McCoy.
I'm loving the intro. I'm sorry. I'm loving the intro. It's real cool. When I was over at Sirius XM and I had my show with Slam Radio, it was a podcast at first. I had to do my own thing. It was COVID. And I didn't have any intro music. So finally, things started opening up. I was able to do it live in the studio. And then when I had my intro music, I was just it was just awesome. So this is just cool to me. But anyway, thanks for sticking around with us through that last break. You're listening to the Miami Hurricanes Watch with Mike McCoy. And thanks for Lance Leggett for showing up, man. You know, guys like that you really have to appreciate, because I like the guys that, and a lot of them don't, man. A lot of the former, let me not say former Canes, former football player Canes, because they're once a Cane, always a Cane, even if you transfer. I don't care where you go. But they're all down to earth, man. A lot of them down to earth, real cool guys. And I've never met Lance. All right. Just know him briefly, just through, a little bit of Twitter interaction. And, just like the down to earth person he is, asked him to came on. Cool. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Canes fam is real. But thank you, Fulgencio Batista, for commenting. Thanks for the content. No problem. Love doing this. Great or good. A quick start by Miami could send the Aggies reeling. I agree with that. You punch them in the mouth. And listen, Haynes King doesn't strike me as a guy that can play his best football from behind. He's probably one of those quarterbacks that plays comfortably when he's ahead. All right. Especially this season, A&M hasn't really been behind by a large margin for them to have to throw the ball as much. So I believe that's a true statement. Great or good, we'll see. But again, three things that are keys to victory, in my opinion, into this game, and in no order of importance, is Miami has to have ball control offense. You got to move the chains, and preferably on the ground. All right, we'll see how that goes. You gotta play ball control offense. You gotta dominate time of possession. And I'm not talking about 35 minutes. You got to have the ball for at least 40 minutes to win this game. That's how I feel. And if you don't, that defense has to show up. By showing up, what do I mean? You got to get off the field on third downs, number one, and you got to apply pressure. Okay. And again, that honorable mention, I'm going to put Andy Borregales in that mix. I believe special teams is going to be huge. You don't have to worry about what Lou Headley's going to bring to the table, but Andy Borregales has to be on his game. I believe he will hit a 58-yarder throughout, or at one point throughout fall camp a couple of weeks ago. So, he could do that. He has the confidence that he could do that. So we'll see. New little bit that we came up with, Chad, Stan, O, and myself. Well, really them more than me. And they told me, hey, Mike, you're going to do this. And I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. So we're gonna do a little bit called the Three McCoys. The Three McCoys, where I picked the MVPs of last game. MVPs can range anywhere between players, fans, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Canes centered. But for the very first inaugural Real McCoys, we're going to keep it Canes centered. So here we are, the Real McCoys.
We're holstered and ready to unleash this week's Real McCoys. Time to hand out awards for this week's MVPs for the Miami Hurricanes. The Real McCoys.
I love it. You guys are awesome, Chad and Stan. I appreciate it. But I'm going to go in reverse order from who I think was, 3, 2, and then the most important. So the third one, all right, I'm looking at, and this is not just based on stats. This is all based on situation and things like that. I'm going to go for the third place Real McCoy. I'm going to give it to Tyler Van Dyke. Why? 20 of 29, 261, a touch, and an INT. He did throw for 261. He didn't have a terrible game. He just didn't have his best game. So because of that, he earns the third place Real McCoy.
Real McCoy.
This is just cracking me up. The second Real McCoy is going to go to a guy that has probably been Miami's best player through 2 games. All right. It is a running back. It is Henry Parrish, over 100 yards in both games. Last game, 23 carries, 109, 4.7 average. His long came 15 yards. A lot of people compare him to his running style to Joe Yearby. And I'm like, Joe Yearby, I don't know. I got to see it. I compared some, and I'm strictly talking about running style. And I'm sorry, you put a number 2 behind, Henry Parrish, and you just kind of, switch the jerseys a little bit. They do run similarly. So Henry Parrish, with his performance on Saturday, earns second place for Real McCoy.
Real McCoy.
And the first place, the number 1 Real McCoy in the inaugural version of the Real McCoys, goes to the adjustments made by the coaches at halftime. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall to see how many obscenities were thrown out there to the players. And because, I mean, come on, guys, Steele's going to say something crazy. Alex Mirabal is probably cursing like a sailor. Mario's going to go ahead and not be nice about things if he has to. He's not scared to tell you how it is. So the adjustments made by the coaching staff. Real McCoy, number one.
Real McCoy.
And that is the inaugural Real McCoy, brought to you by, we don't have a sponsor yet, but if anybody knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody wants to, sponsor that or this show, hey, let me know. We could do business. But let's talk about what Miami has to do. We got 12 minutes before we get out of here. Got a lot of stuff that I want to go over, and I'm not going to probably have enough time to do it in. But what does Miami have to do to win this game other than what I talked about? Let's talk about Texas A&M side first. I was listening to Jimbo Fisher's press conference, all right, before the show. I took some notes. And the man deserves an Emmy, an Oscar, whatever was on the TV the other day, because he may not be feeling, well, I do think he's feeling the pressure, but he's doing a good job at kind of like putting it off to the side, all right? So Texas A&M, Jimbo's taking a lot of heat, all right? Even Paul Feinbaum on interviews said that he's being exposed, all right? Others are saying, and I talked about this earlier, that he benefited more from the talent on those FSU teams than the other way around. The talent benefiting from his coaching. And like I said, I'm kind of on the fence with that because, yes, there was generational talent between Jameis Winston and Dalvin Cook. Heck, Miami, one of those years, should have at least twice. There are at least two games that Al Golden should have beaten Jimbo Fisher FSU team. One of them was at Tally, and one of them was here in Miami. All right, at least two of those. But Cook bailed them out. Jameis bailed them out, and that's the way the cookie crumbled. But in any event, like I said, I see that both ways because coaches just don't forget how to coach. All right, like I said, this is a guy that made Christian ponder. I ponder what he's up to nowadays. And EJ Manuel, who's sitting next to Mark Richt watching games on ACC Network on Saturdays, he made them both first-round picks. All right, I know that was a long time ago, but Ponder still went first round to the Vikings and Manuel to Buffalo way back when. So I want to play some clips from the press conference that he had. I believe it was yesterday, and this is very interesting. He was asked if his system is too complex for quarterbacks. This is the heat that he's taking. Listen to the kind of questions he's getting from the media over at College Station. He said no, and then the QBs, know exactly what they're doing. But take a listen for yourself when Jimbo was asked if his system is too complex for quarterbacks.
You get into the season, do you ever have a worry that maybe your system is a little too complex for your quarterback room?
No. Our guys know exactly what they're doing. And if you look at it, it's not just everybody says the quarterback room, but those mistakes, they were ready to do some things they were right and miss a block, get a route too deep, or get a route, or they cover a guy and get into the next guy. I mean, no, they know it. They can see it, do it, and we had throws to be made, and we missed some throws. I mean, there's a physical part of that too. They know exactly what to do.
Jimbo, I feel ice cracking. I hear ice cracking, Jimbo. I hear ice cracking, okay? So listen, take from that. That's what a coach is supposed to say, right? You don't want to throw your players under the bus. You don't want to throw yourself under the bus. But again, this is just the kind of vibe that's over in College Station, heck, nationally. And then when you are asked that type of question, and that's followed up with this question when he was asked if he would simplify the offense and or decision making by the quarterbacks if it got to a certain point within the season where things are kind of going off the hinges. Listen to what he said when he was asked about that.
Gotten to a point in the season where things just weren't clicking. Would you ever consider simplifying some of the decision making?
We do all the time. There are a lot of those decisions were very simple, and we constantly evaluate that. We evaluate all that stuff every day. When guys make decisions, how they're decision making, how they're handling it in practice, and what goes on in the game. That's an ever going thing that's always done.
Chat, tell me what you think. Chat. I mean, to me, it sounds like a bunch of malarkey. All right, that's the first time I've ever used that word in my life, by the way. But I don't know, man. I will see. Look, I think one thing is for certain. Miami is not going to see that same Texas A&M team, that same Texas A&M effort that the nation saw last Saturday. Number one, how many people get up to play Miami? Everybody and their mom gets up to play Miami. So Miami coming into town is going to be reason alone for Texas A&M to be up. That's number one. Number two, teams like A&M with talent after talent after talent on top of talent on top of talent on a roster, they don't necessarily have 2 bad games in a row. All right. There's talent on both sides of the ball, guys, on that team. And I get it that defense is the one that's carrying the weight right now. However, that offense has no scrubs. There's no scrubs on that offense, guys. And so Miami's not going to see that same team that had a lackluster effort on Saturday. They're just not. Again, they're playing Miami. Everybody loves to play Miami. And here's another thing. How many guys on that team are players that Miami recruited and or are from right here in Miami, Florida, or Florida, period? One of them being Shamar Stewart. I don't want to talk about that recruiting saga, all right? Amari Daniels, a running back from Central. There's a bunch of guys on that roster that have Miami ties, could have, should have, wanted to be here. So that's going to be motivation in and of itself for them to play well. You don't think Jimbo's going to want to prove people wrong? Yes, the hell he is. I would, all right? When your manhood, when your coaching skills, when your coaching theories are questioned, that's going to be something that you want to put to bed and put to bed hard. We're going to see a different team out there. We're going to see a different team out there. When asked, this is the last quote I want to share before I get into some other stuff. They followed that question when Jimbo's ego was brought up. And I thought this one, I wish I was live so you guys could see my reaction when I saw this clip for the very first time. But it was like, ooh, they asked him about Jimbo's ego. Take a listen.
You have your hands full. Would you ever consider turning the play calling over to someone to where perhaps the offense could be more efficient?
In time, I would. Yeah, possibly could. I mean, you always evaluate those things, and everything we do, evaluate everything we do, and it's a conglomerate of play calling too. I mean, we're getting information from everybody and thoughts, and the ideas that we put down in those calls and what we do going in the game on our sheets it's a collective group decisions based off our offensive staff and what we do and how we do things. But yes, possibly yes.
So you don't ever feel like maybe your ego would get in the way of that? You could say, hey, whatever it takes to win.
No, whatever it takes to win. I'm always whatever it takes to win. No, my ego would not. Winning takes all effect over everything. I promise you that.
I got to give it to him. Because knowing me, I probably would have told him, get the hell out of my press conference with that crap. Like, seriously, some coaches don't like. Can you imagine asking Nick Saban that question? Good God, that probably wouldn't have went there. That guy probably would have had his credentials stripped of him for the rest of the season, if not, lifetime ban. But in any event, Jimbo alluded to a possible quarterback change this week, right? He said that they're going to evaluate everything. And I have a screenshot here. I'm in a nice little chat, and there's a screenshot here from Texas A&M's 24/7 site, Gig'em 247, right? Check this out. All 3 quarterbacks on A&M's roster got the same amount of work yesterday. Normally, the starter gets all or vast majority of the reps. This doesn't mean that changes at the position are definitely coming, but circumstances are more favorable for them to occur. Does that mean that there's going to be a whole different starter? Who knows? Does that mean that Haynes King is going to have a short leash? Who knows? But I do know that all 3 quarterbacks took the same amount of reps. So every quarterback got the same amount of looks. Listen, there are 2 quarterbacks on the roster behind King, and one of them is a 5-star. Here it is. He's backed up by 5-star 2022 signee Connor Weigman. He was the second best quarterback in the last recruiting cycle, and transfer Max Johnson, that name rings a bell, it should. He did the right thing by coming over from LSU during the offseason. The right thing, because LSU is a train wreck. I've said it ever since they made that signing, and not about Brian Kelly being a bad fit. Brian Kelly's not a good coach. I don't give a damn what he did at Cincinnati. Nobody cares about Cincinnati. Nobody cares about Cincinnati in college football at all. People barely care about Cincinnati in the NFL, all right? I don't want to hear about that. All I know is that every time he had a chance at a big game at Notre Dame, he flopped on his face. This is a man that famously said before they played Alabama down here in, 2014 or 2015 for the national championship game against Nick Saban's Alabama Crimson Tide, that same team that had Amari Cooper as a freshman. He said the team with the most mistakes is going to win the game. Excuse you? All right, Jimbo. Brian Kelly's not going to win 10 games at LSU. Bookmark me. I want to talk about the offensive line. Jimbo stresses the issues on offense are fixable, and he goes back to fundamentals being the issue. Well, injuries are part of that too. Bryce Foster, if you don't know who that is, Jimbo Fisher said that offensive lineman, he's a center. Bryce Foster would return to practice on Monday, yesterday, after missing the past 2 games with an undisclosed injury. This is from Cole Thompson of All Aggies on Fan Nation. Fisher did not say if Foster would play on Saturday versus the Canes. Why is this important, guys? This is important because this is a 6'5", 325-pound center. Centers aren't normally that big, okay? Centers aren't normally that big, but he excelled in pass protection, and he has improved as a run blocker, okay? That's big. That's big. He excelled in pass protection, improved as a run blocker. Think about Miami's weaknesses on defense. Not so much the pass rush, even though Miami really hasn't had a chance to just let them fly out there, have that Lamborghini package or Ferrari package, because look at who they've played. And I honestly believe that Steele is kind of just holding back a little bit. I really do think that this is a week that, if you missed the first segment, I was talking about how Mario Cristobal referenced big speed, and he said that in a literal sense because tight ends for A&M, they can move, and tight ends, they're big. So Mario said big speed. I think this is the week that we see what a lot of fans have been calling for. James Williams a lot closer to the line for the majority of the game. I think this is just me kind of looking around and kind of, okay, I see that. I think this, and it makes sense, right? You got a 6'5", 225-pound guy that can move. Bring him close to the line to cover this big speed that A&M has. We'll see. Avante, this is what the good problem of having depth is for. And I know I only got a minute or two to go, but I got a lot of things to cover, and I want to get on it. I'll be pissed off if I can't, but it is what it is. But Foster, all right, the other reason why it's a big deal is because he was named to the 2021 SEC All-Freshman team. And entering fall camp, Fisher said that both Foster and redshirt freshman Matthew Wyckoff were going to be fighting for that spot. So this kid not only is a huge center, but he's a good center. And you got to wonder if that goes into why A&M looked sluggish on offense for 2 weeks. Because I'm sorry, beating Sam Houston State 31-0, that's struggling on offense, if you ask me. If Miami would have beat Bethune 31-0, I probably wouldn't have anybody listening to me right now. I mean, let's just be real. That's just the state of the Miami fan. So it is what it is. But I think that's a big deal. And I also think it's a big deal. Miami has injury problems too, that they're not problems, but issues that, they're dealing with. Everybody knows about Rooster. Everybody knows about Zion Nelson. How that offensive line rotation will go if Zion Nelson is back is probably going to be Nelson at left. You're going to have Ja'Kai Clark at the right. At center. Jalen Rivers is also probably going to play left guard. At right guard, they'll probably slide Skate from outside over to the right guard, and then John Campbell will move over from left to right where he started the past 2 games. I'm just assuming. I don't know. That's what makes most sense to me. We shall see. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of time, and I didn't have enough time to we're going to have to talk about making this a 2-hour show, because that's where this is headed at some point. But Bone Daddy, thanks for commenting. The offense, Jeff, what's up, man? Hopefully the offense will be opened up for this game. I believe it will. I think this is the game that Miami sees that, and I believe UM hasn't shown their full offense yet. Mallory's going to show up big time. I'm a big Mallory fan. I hope you're right. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been that's it. That's all I got for this week, and I hope you join us next week. Go Canes. I am not a prediction guy, because I think that when I put predictions for games like this, when it comes to Miami, I jinx them. So I just hope they look good out there. That's all I got. I hope you join us next week on the Miami Hurricanes Watch with your host, Mike McCoy, here on Sports Talk 305, powered by Big O, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the Miami Hurricanes Watch with host Mike McCoy on the Sports Talk 305 network. The Watch is mastered by Sean Stanley and Chad Shobe. Please subscribe to the Big O Radio Show on most platforms. Thank you for supporting the Miami Hurricanes Watch. Have a great night, Canes fans.